Put your trust in us and we'll be champions.
Hello, dear friends. My name is Isaac Shapiro, Isaac or Yitzhak in Hebrew. And I've been a Kabbalah instructor for almost 30 years. I've had the honor and pleasure of being very close to my master and teacher, the Rabbi Berg, of blessed memory. And the reason I'm here is because I'm honoring his memory and following through in the best capacity I can, and trying to empower people with this great knowledge that is Kabbalah. Our group of study is called Shomrim Laboke, which means roughly the gardens of the morning or the gardens of sunrise. And we are a few ex-students or former students of our late teacher, the Rav, who are very motivated in continuing his work and trying to inspire and empower people all over the world with the teachings of Kabbalah, the same way we were inspired and empowered by our teacher. And, we feel compelled to share this wonderful energy, this wonderful wisdom. And we hope that everyone is able to use it and see miracles in his or her life. So here in Shomrim Laboker, which we're based in Mexico City, and probably you've noticed I'm not a native English speaker. My native tongue is Spanish. And from here, we are broadcasting these programs of different topics of Kabbalah. And a few of our Spanish-speaking friends would like to share some of this knowledge with their English-speaking friends. So we're here in that attempt. Hopefully we'll be successful. You'll let us know if what we say here it's of use to all of you. Having said that, our program is called Leaders Guided by the Light, Kabbalah and Leadership. We have a program that we produced in Spanish regarding this matters of leadership and Kabbalah, and people asked us for an English version. So, this is it. Leaders Guided by the Light, Kabbalah and Leadership. My dear friends, what is a leader? A leader is a person who empowers others to be their best. We are not speaking about regular leaders. We're not only talking about, let's say, business leaders or academic leaders or teachers or parents. We would like to encase this particular program in what we call light leaders. And of course, we don't refer to light as far as body weight. Light leaders is all those who are inspired and guided by the light force of the Creator. So, how can Kabbalah empower us to be the best leaders we can be? Light leaders never complain. Light leaders are consistent and lead by example. And we'll take a Kabbalistic tool, which is the Tree of Life, Etz Chaim, where we have all the 10 Sefirot, starting from Keter, the crown, Chokhmah, wisdom, Bina, understanding, Hesit, love, kindness, or mercy, Vura, rigor or judgment, Tiferet, beauty, balance, Netzach, which is victory or glory, eternity, Hod, which is gratefulness, to be gracious, Yesod, which means foundation, and Malhot, which means the kingdom, which is our physical reality. Or as the Rav used to say, the 1%, the rest is the 99%. So we'll take this tool called the Tree of Life, and we'll follow by each of the Sefirot, and hopefully we can deliver good knowledge, good tips on how to be a light leader, a luminous person. We all are leaders in our life at one point, be it that we are business leaders, we are parents, we're teachers, we are academics, we're professionals, we work in universities or schools, or each one of us has the opportunity to be a leader at one point in his lifetime, and some of us have to be leaders all the time. So hopefully, what we speak here is useful for all of you who are interested in Kabbalah, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And so, having said that, let's start. First of all, what is the Tree of Life? The Tree of Life is a depiction of the power of the Creator, how the Creator manifests himself or herself in his creation. We know that the Creator is the supreme unity. He is the supreme force of love, the supreme perfection. But in order to relate to his creation, which is not as perfect, he has or she has to become similar to that. And therefore, the Sefirot are these 10 aspects, 10 emanations that reveal the force of God, the force of the light force in our creation. From the very sublime stages, what we call super causes, Keter, the crown, Chokhmah, wisdom, and Bina, understanding, and then the causes, which is Hesit, Vura, Tiferet, Netzach, and Yesod, and then the manifestation. Now, the Kabbalists, who many people think are very sophisticated thinkers, which they are also very practical. Kabbalah should be a practical discipline. Otherwise, it's an intellectual hobby. We're not here to provide information for the engrossment of the intellect. We're here to provide practical solutions. We're here to provide energy for the people to become their best version. So, we use the tree of life in order to go through the 10 Sefirot, and by emulating these 10 Sefirot, we can also become great, passionate, sophisticated, and practical leaders. We mean that. So hopefully you'll find this interesting. You'll find connection with what we propose here. So the first of the Sefirot is Keter, the crown. Keter, as you can see in the depiction, is the very first emanation of God, is the pure consciousness of godliness. It's the total possibility of love. And the Kabbalists, in particular, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero of blessed memory, who was contemporary of the Arizal of Rabbi Azat Luria in Tzfat, in his beautiful treatise called the Palm Tree of Dvorah, Tomer Dvorah, he has this conception of how we can relate humanly to the 10 Sefirot. So, I take his proposal, his knowledge on what he says about Keter. Is how can we imitate God at the Keter level, at the crown? And he comes up with a very beautiful definition, beautiful proposal, by being humble. Humility is the way to become like Keter. It's like in what we say in Hebrew, bitul hayesh. It's the transformation of the ego, the total cancellation of the negative aspect of the ego, which has a positive part. The positive part is that we can draw energy. Without the ego, we would be able to attract energy. So that's the good part of the ego. But we cannot let the ego rule, because the ego wants that energy for the person alone. It's an egotic part that we cannot conceive of as legitimate according to Kabbalah. We're here to receive all this energy in order to transform it and share it. We receive for the sake of sharing. So, how to become like Keter, which is the ultimate manifestation of God at its source. It's even incomprehensible. We cannot really know exactly what Keter means, except that it's the total emanation of love, total emanation of perfection. How can we become similar to that? By being humble, with the expression of humility. Leaders are geared to power, right? And power tends to corrupt. And absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. So, one of the things that we have to take care when we are behaving as leaders, when we are playing the role of leaders, is how we manage power. When we believe that we deserve that power, when we believe that we are the source of that power, then we become a corrupt leader. And unfortunately, most of the leaders are a little bit on that side. They believe that they are there because, they are intelligent, they're capable, they have these great abilities and talents, they have worked hard, so they deserve to be these leaders. But really, as we know, in Judaism, in spiritual Judaism, the idea of a leader being humble was a major point. The king, it says about how the king should be, shouldn't have too many horses, the Torah says. Shouldn't have too many wives. Why? Because the leader should not exacerbate his ego, his power. He shouldn't believe that he is greater than his brethren. On the contrary, the leader should know that he comes to serve his people, comes to serve his brethren. From a powerful position, of course, but from a powerful position that is given by the light force, not by his talents, not by his position or his relationships or whatever. It's because the light force of God is giving him or her the opportunity to lead, to be of inspiration. So, in that sense, to be humble, not to be arrogant, to operate with humility is of paramount importance. The power of the light leader has to come of being conscious of a supreme being, of a supreme force, whose presence, or in whose presence he or she stands, meaning that we are not the center of the world. The light force is the center. And it is only our aspiration to allow ourselves to be channels of that life force. That is humility. The three first Sefirot, the Gimel Rishonot, are intrapersonal processes. So, someone who is behaving as a leader, someone who has to exert his leadership, firstly and most importantly, has to work on his humility. Interestingly, the Harvard Business Review, in one of his articles, says that the best leaders are humble leaders. So it's not even only Kabbalah, it's Harvard Business Review. They allow and learn about criticism. They are confident enough to empower others and praise their contributions, and they're not afraid of their own errors because they know that they're human, and as humans we are imperfect. And they derive power from that honest recognition. They take personal risks for the greater good. They inspire loyalty without focusing on it. What applies to leaders applies to everyone, as husbands and wives, as parents, as fellow workers, members of companies, organizations, communities, and friends. So, the smaller the egotic self, the less arrogant, the more humble we are as leaders, and we work on that, the greater the capacity to express our godliness, the greater our capacity to empower others, the greater our capacity to be great leaders. The greater capacity to express God's will, which, by the way, is our best bet. With humility, we can connect to what God wants from all of us, and we can follow through. God knows what's good for all of us. We don't make this calculation. We leave it to the Supreme Being, and we try to attach ourselves to that force of a godly will. And we know when we're attached to God's will, then everything is great. So, my friends, Keter, the crown, the very primary emanation, the source of everything. We want to be close to that. We have to develop and to work hard on humility. The best leader ever, according to Kabbalah, has been Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moses. Moses took us all from bonding, from slavery. Not from a physical place as we know, Egypt. It's from a place of consciousness that was not the right place, where ego was the main ingredient, where we didn't know the capacity to being godly, and therefore we were slaves to our ego. And Moshe, who at the beginning didn't want to be a leader, he negotiated with the Supreme Being, with God, because he said, I don't have a communication ability. And the Lord told him, you have to worry about that. I will put the right words in your mouth. Your brother Aaron will be there for you. So, we know Moshe, who was the humblest person on earth. This is what the Torah informs us. Was the best leader. He did it all for the greater purpose. He even had this discussions with God when he was too harsh with the Hebrews, and he says, if you don't forgive them, if you're not going to be nice to them, please erase me from your book. That was Moses, and his main characteristic was to be humble. So, want to be light leaders? First of all, we have to work on being humble. Second aspect, chokhmah. And, humble, the humility part will be everywhere. It goes from Keter to chokhmah, and then to Bina, and then to Zeir Anpin, Chesed, Vura, Tiferet, Netzachot, Yesod, and of course, to Malhot. Chokhmah, wisdom. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says something beautiful in Tomer Dvorah, the poetry of Dvorah. He says, Chokhmah is not accumulating wisdom, information. Chokhmah is, of course, receiving all the flow of light from Keter. But then, and foremost, there's a more important aspect, which is how can I inspire others to become close to the light force? This is real chokhmah. Whether I am a sage or whether it's my first class and I got so inspired that I feel the need to share that inspiration. So the real chokhmah is not how much you know, how much information you have, if you can recite the Zohar back and forth. Chokhmah really is measured in the way you can inspire, you can motivate others with your words, lofty words or very simple words, and open their willingness to connect to the life force. That is chokhmah. And then you're a wise person if you can achieve that. And of course, we're talking here about leadership. The leader is not about showing how great he is, what a knowledgeable person he or she is. It's about inspiring others. It's about looking that others are in good shape, is try to achieve something of importance in this lifetime with the aid of others. This is what the leader does. So the inspiration part is very important. Now, who can inspire others? Only those who are very knowledgeable, of course. If you know many things, people will look you with awe. But really, is those who inspire is those who open their heart and soul and really care about the others, and sometimes a smile, sometimes a few words, what helped you understand something that you didn't understand previously and make you look and see things that you didn't perceive, and then you transfer that to others. That is chokhmah according to the Kabbalists. That is wisdom. Your capacity to inspire and to be there for others, to try to push them, motivate them to be their best version. And then we go to Bina as the third aspect of this intrapersonal part of the leader. Bina. Bina in this sense has to do, is connected to teshuvah. Teshuvah. You know, some people on a very limiting way translate teshuvah as repentance, but it's much more than repentance. Teshuvah is tashuv hey, is the return of the hey. Which hey? The lower hey of the name, which is ourselves, our physical, our those of us who live in this physical realm are the hay, the lower hay, and we want to reconnect. So, in this sense, teshuvah, the reconnection, is related to our ability to look inwards and rectify and make a tikkun, make a correction. When we understand more about ourselves, our strengths and our weaknesses, and we honestly look at those and we love them, and we know that this is what we have as far as our resources to work in life, and we have to make the best out of it, Then we try to rectify, we try to correct, we try to make this tikkun. So the leader, firstly, before even he attempts to lead others, has to know his weaknesses, his strengths also, of course, and has to be ready to correct whatever is not right, to make the real teshuvah, to bring those imperfect traits that he has and look them closely and work on perfecting them. And there's nothing wrong in being imperfect. So, we have Keter, being humble, being like the light. You know, another beautiful story is that in the spiritual realms, the greatest being, the king of kings, is not the one who has more servants, is the one who serves the most. God gives life to the human being, which is the utmost of his creation, and he also gives life to the most despicable of viruses. Without the light force of God, nobody can exist. Whereas in the physical realm, we have this image of the kings, the presidents, the leaders, the owners, who have many servants and who expect them to be served. So, Keter is the capacity to be humble enough, to operate with zero arrogance, and to understand we're part of that life force if and when we are channels to that life force without attempting to be the figureheads. Keter, have to be humble. Chokhmah, when you are humble, you can inspire with your heart and your soul. You don't have to be a sage. You don't have to be this super knowledgeable person. You can inspire others with what comes to you and inspires you to get closer to God, and you can also share that with others. So that's being wise, that's chokhmah. And then Bina, teshuvah, have the capacity of rectify, have the capacity to correct, have the capacity of do teshuvah. So those are the three intrapersonal aspects of leadership. Now we'll go to the next 6 sefirot, which call for the relational aspects, how the leader relates to his or her followers. And of course, we start with Hesit, love, kindness, mercy. Hesit means opportunities. The real light leader gives opportunities, has patience, allows for errors, allows people to, at one point not do the right thing and not get immediately disqualified. They don't focus on personal glory, but on the overall beneficial result for everyone. The greater cause. The luminous leader, the light leader in Hesit gives wings, creates leaders, not followers, empowers others to become leaders. And if you don't err at one point, you don't know how to be a good leader, because being a leader is making mistakes and getting up and continuing. If you don't allow for errors, if you don't allow for opportunities, if you don't have patience, then you are not a light leader. That is how Hesed, love, kindness, mercy, translates into leadership. Give opportunities. Allow others to be. Say yes, because you can say no in the other aspect that we call Vura, right? Vura. How can we emulate the force of Vura and being a light leader? When you provide structure, when you say no at the right time, not all the time, at the right time. Gvura is the rigor and is the judgment. And sometimes you have to say no. You have to suggest limits. You have to propose clear goals and how to achieve them and what is expected of people. And what's the valid way to achieve those goals. That's Vura. Communication is of the essence. The light leaders in Vura, they draw a clear picture. They draw a picture of... it's clear. Nothing is really hidden. There's clarity. And therefore, people who are under his or her leadership know if they err, if they made errors, if they're not performing, because there are clear, established rules and goals, and it's easy to measure against those. The leader cannot be a personal guardian of everyone and check if you did, you didn't, if he or her did his homework or not. The leader provides the arena, provides the goals, provides the clarity, provides the structure, provides the right no's at the right times, no's, N-O, but allows the followers to develop themselves, to act. Of course, the leader, the light leader in Vura, has to be very clear as to what are the consequences of not achieving, and communicate that. So as you see, we're here talking about the relational aspect of the leader. Chesed, give opportunity, say yes. Vura, provide structure, say no when it's needed. Clear goals. What's the way to achieve those goals? What are the consequences of not achieving? And then we go to Tiferet. Tiferet is beauty. Tiferet is the central column, right? Is balance and harmony. And in this sense, Tiferet, how can the leader exercise luminously while being close to Tiferet? Tiferet, the central columns, the central column has is very closely connected to the concept of restriction. Restriction, where you don't allow egotic thoughts and emotions to guide you or guide the group. And then you allow expressions of generosity for all involved. Restrict and don't allow losing time and energy on personal issues related to power, influence, or personal egotic interests. In groups, organizations, even in the best organizations in the world, things fail because leaders either allow themselves to express their egotic interests or allow the power struggles that derive from a poor understanding of the higher goal. And then we have there a continuous war, continuous confrontation, a confrontation of egos. And of course, that's not what we mean by light leadership, luminous leadership. Defending personal views, who's right instead of the greater good. In that view of that, we can say that the luminous leader in Tiferet has the capacity to recognize when things are not right. And also he allows others and praises when the others recognize their errors. And it's part of it. We already spoke in the Vura part that we have to allow people to make mistakes. In Tiferet, you recognize those mistakes and try to amend them immediately. And there's not a discussion of personal views when these personal views are not for the interests of the organization, the group, the family. Many organizations, as we said, are brought to the brink of extinction because leaders allow expressions of ego to control decisions and processes. Tiferet is the capacity of to restrict those egotic manifestations, to consciously know that there's no place for that part in the organization. You know, with sadness, I can say that in my professional lifetime and in my spiritual career, so to speak, since I started with Kabbalah over 30 years ago, I've noticed that even spiritual people fall into this lack of restriction when it comes to their personal agendas. And they forget that they're there to serve. They forget that they're there to allow light and success to flourish and to be manifested. And they stick to their personal agendas, to their egos. They lose humility. They become very, very arrogant. They all know that, they become the masters, and they want to be recognized as masters. When that happens, when that feeling starts, you have to be humble enough and wise enough to say, hey, this is not how I will achieve transcendence, through my leadership role here. Have to be very honest and very humble. Then we go to Netzach. Netzach. Netzach is eternity or victory. And of course, the Netzach aspect of light leadership, of luminous leadership, is that you have to be a fighter. Perseverance, continuity, choosing life, blessing, would say the Rav. My teacher says, when do we know that there's blessing in something? When there's continuity. So the leader, the luminous leader, has to empower people to persevere, to continue in spite of hardships. Now with all this special situation, the pandemic, Netzach is especially important. We have to persevere. The other side, Satan, darkness. Wow, he's the master of perseverance. We have to imitate, if we have to imitate the Satan, Satan in Hebrew, as we say, in a way, it's by imitating his perseverance, by imitating his continuity, by not giving up. And of course, you have to be role models in that. We have to empower people to persevere. We have to help people to get up and continue. The same way we want to be helped and given a hand when things are rough. Netzach then is, and the way we can achieve eternity and victory is by sheer perseverance. We have to be there. We have to continue. And we have to make sure that as leaders, we help others also to continue, to get up and continue his way. The eighth aspect is Hod, grace or glory. And how do we as leaders imitate the attribute of Hod? Perspective. And perspective not only means that you look things from afar and look, how things are from afar. In this way, the real perspective, the real light leadership perspective is when you focus and then go back. Focus and then go back. The real good light leader not only stays in the great perspective, he goes also to detail and then comes back. You have to be in the broad and close perspective. Both are perspectives. Not to get confused by immediacy. Not get confused by what we need to do next only. The light leader uses also the medium and long range perspective. At times you have to be immediate, and you have to, in order to achieve something, you have to make executive decisions, you have to go and do it. Yes. You have to have that perspective. When you have that perspective and you see the clear picture and the total picture, then you know that sometimes it's time to act on the spot. But not as the only practice. The light leader, deriving power and energy from Hod, has to have this flexibility, this ability to come close and also look from afar. And we come to the last of the 6 Sefirot of Zeranpin, Yesod. Yesod is foundation, and Yesod is related to the spine and the sexual organs. The spine allows us to walk vertically. Vertical means internal consistency. Lead by example. Walk the talk. Congruence. You cannot speak about integrity and act as a crook. You cannot speak about honesty and act false. You cannot talk about the greater good and only service your own convenient egotic interests. Fortunately, in this area of Yesod is where many leaders fail because they don't walk the talk. Because they only talk and they don't perform. Show me what you mean by results. Don't only tell me, as you can see here. Show me. Don't only tell me. You have to be consistent. Leaders should be living messages of what we expect others to understand and do. Leaders have to be messages of what we expect others to follow and ultimately achieve. As a parent, you cannot expect your child to be composed and act calmly and have patience when you shout at him, when you castigate him, and you periodically lose your temper in front of him. You can expect your customer service employee to be courteous and efficient if you act carelessly towards him, if you don't pay attention to him, if you don't show your interest to him as a person, and are insensitive and cold. My friends, Yesod is an urge to lead by example. And this is not a politically correct attitude, is a transcendental way of exercising leadership. And of course, we come to Malhot. Malhot, the 10th level. And Malhot is the physical realm, is the physical reality, and Malhot means to execute. No wishful thinking, not only good wishes, not only good thoughts. Execute, manifest the plans. We're here to elevate the physical realm, and we only elevate the physical realm if we act on this world of action, Olam Asiyah. We cannot leave things only in intentions. And while results are what we expect as leaders, yes, we expect results. In every way we perform, we're exercising leadership. We should know, however, that at the end of the day, that these results really don't directly depend on us. That's the paradox. Or else, from no one except the supreme intelligence. except God. So how can you conciliate that? On the one hand, we need to execute, we need to manifest, and on the other hand, we recognize that we are not in charge, we're not in control of the results. We should put all our intentionality, all our effort, talent, and hard work, but be wise enough, be aware enough to leave the ultimate results to God. We only control when we can control. We can only do so much. And then we have to be ready to let go. And then we have to be ready to acknowledge that not everything turns out the way we expect. And while as leaders we have to be practical, we have to understand and be honest when the best of efforts has been made and the result was not there as we expected. And we have to live by that too. And to be supportive of our followers, of our brethren, to whom we are exercising our leadership. And to know that sometimes God decides otherwise. And we should allow for that. Of course, there's a very fine line. And that's the talent of the light leader. Not to be permissive, but to understand that sometimes things are not achieved as the initial plan called for. And remember, in spirituality, the end never justifies means. Never. Never. Many leaders forget this. And many times the result can be catastrophic. When the end justified means there are things that can go very wrong, painful and a deceiving victory that initially, might appear as a great triumph. And then, after a while, it just falls apart. Never feel that you can do whatever you want as far as achieving the end and injecting negativity to the process. It will never happen. We need to have the end result in our mind, of course. And of course, design the plans and the execution strategies to get to those results. But the light leaders, the luminous leaders, are flexible. Allow themselves to change course if required. And allow to be directed by the higher being and by their intuition. Light leaders are a virtuous combination of perseverance, temperance, and flexibility. Attachment, my friends, should only be to the light and to no one else. Now, I'm sure you've heard these explanations in other courses, in other situations. What makes this special is that we have the instruments of Kabbalah. And what follows is how we can use instruments to achieve the luminous part of leadership through Keter, Chochmah, Bina, Hesit, Vura, Tiferet, Netzachot, Yesod, and Malhot. What can we do about it? Of course, one part is have the cognition of that, have the logical and the input, the information as we provide it. But then there's the names of God that are related to each one of these 10 emanations. And we will follow through. And I'll ask you to use this as a meditation. So please uncross your legs and your hands and breathe deeply. Allow yourself to be relaxed. Allow yourself to get lots and lots of light, and when you exhale, you get rid of all the anxiousness, all the negative thoughts, whatever you don't want to be with you, you exhale. You let it out. Now, let's visualize a very luminous ray of light that hits in the upper part of our head. And as this beautiful white light hits that part of our head, it becomes like a cascade, a waterfall of light. Allow that light to get into every atom of your physical being, every molecule, every tissue, every organ. Allow yourself to become full of that peaceful life. Relax yourself. Release all anxiousness. Inhale and exhale. Enjoy peace and quiet. Be one with the light. There's no disruptive messages in your mind. It's only light. And now we want to absorb from Keter the power of humility. We open our eyes and focus on the name Eheye Asher Eheye. That's the name of the divinity as is expressed in the realm of Keter. Allow yourself to be imbued with that powerful energy of humility. Allow humility to involve all of you, to conquer your mind, to conquer your heart, to conquer your soul. Allow yourself to be totally imbued with humility, anava, with the name Ekeye Asher Ekeye. Now, close your eyes for a moment and let yourself be imbued by humility through Heye Asher Eheye. Now let's move to Chokhmah. Chokhmah is the way to inspire others to get close to their best version. Inspire others to become closer to their own perfection. And here we use the name of Yah, Yud-Kei. Look very intently at Yud-Kei and allow yourself to be imbued with inspiration. Inspiration not only for you, inspiration also to inspire others. Let's move on to Bina. Bina. Our capacity to rectify, our capacity to do teshuvah, our capacity to correct ourselves in a luminous, loving way. And here, in order to do this tikkun, we use the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei in its version of Elohim. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Elohim. Now, we move on to Hesit, love kindness, opportunities, allowing others to be themselves, to be their best version. Allow mistakes, allow correction of those mistakes. Give opportunities to yourself and others. And the name here is Aleph Lamed, El. The name El. El is the name of mercy. And you let yourself to be imbued with the spar of El. You allow yourself all the opportunities, and you allow others the right opportunities to achieve. We move on to Vura. Vura. And here we allow ourselves to be imbued with the capacity of structure, of saying no when we need to say no. Contention. Limits. And we use the name Elohim for that purpose. Elohim. We let ourselves to be imbued with the luminous name Elohim, which is how we elevate Vura to its rightful place in the realm of light leadership. We move on to Tiferet. And there we're imbued with balance and harmony and the capacity to do restriction on our reactions and not to allow reactions, personal agenda, personal grandeur to overcome and to lead. We have always in mind the greater objective, the objective and the goal of the light. We don't allow the ego and the egotic behaviors thoughts to interfere. And for that reason, we use the name Yud Kei Vav Kei in its version of Adonai. Yud Kei Vav Kei Adonai. We allow ourselves to be in control of things by letting go. We allow ourselves to be attached to the light by restricting the egotic manifestations of our being and of the being of those who are in our group. We move on to Netzach. And in Netzach, we want the light to fill us with the energy of continuity, of perseverance. And then we use the name Adonai Tzvaot. Adonai Tzvaot. Adonai Tzvaot is the name that allows us to be imbued with this most important power of perseverance, of continuity, of going forward no matter what, not letting the situation control us, not letting the challenge impede our continuous progress to the goal. And the same with Had, the same name, Adonai Tzvaot, and Had means perspective. And we are imbued with the energy of focusing and allowing to see also from afar, focusing and going back. And go to the detail and also go to the greater picture. And know that when one door is closed, 10 doors are opened for us. We become powerful by allowing ourselves to be imbued with Had, Adonai Tzvaot. And then we move on to Yesod. Yesod. In Yesod, we have the capacity of being consistent, of congruency, of leading by example. Of not only telling, but also showing, walking the talk. And we use the name Shaddai El Chai in order to become strong in this attribute of leadership in Yesod. Shaddai El Chai. And then Malhot. We come to the physical realm, to the Olam Asiyah, to the world of action. And we use the name Adonai to become part of the execution of the plans of the light. We become soldiers of the light. We execute the plans. They become manifest. And we help in that way with the correction, with the tikkun of the world, with the attachment of Malhot to Yesod, to perfection, to Mashiach. Adonai. Let's take 3 or 4 deep breaths. Breathe deeply, inhale and exhale. Slowly open your eyes. My friends, thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully, you have derived consciousness, but also very practical tips on how to be a good leader. Remember, we all are leaders at one point in our lifetime. And by performing from the standpoint of the light, as light leaders, we can really change this world. All of us are needed. Don't think of you as a little thing. You're a great thing. By exercising light leadership, you can make your world and the world a better place. I take this chance to wish you a very happy New Year. Shana Tova Umetuka. Hopefully, if this was something that you deem interesting, let us know. And we'll continue with our English-speaking programs if the light allows us, and of course, if you feel it's important. Also, if you can help us with your contributions, which appear in the screen, we'll be most grateful. God bless. Thank you.
So put your trust in us and we'll be champions.